Hello and welcome back to Children's Reading Cove. Let's dive into another Shakespeare play. This time it's a comedy and it is called As You Like It. Now let's meet some of the cast members of this play. Here is the cast list. There is Duke Senior, who is now living in banishment in the woods of Ardennes. Rosalind is his daughter. Duke Frederick is Duke Senior's brother, and he is the one who has banished Duke Senior into the woods. There's Celia, Duke Frederick's daughter, and she is also best friends with Rosalind. And there's Orlando, the youngest son of Sir Roland de Boys. The scene is France in the 16th century. Now, in the 16th century, Paris became one of the biggest cities in Europe. The Renaissance had come to Paris, changing the architecture and the art and the way people lived. And most importantly, Paris became the second most important place for publishing books, next to Venice. Now, Shakespeare liked to include a lot of poems in his plays. So let's begin with one poem from As You Like It. Under the greenwood tree, who loves to lie with me, and turn his merry note unto the sweet bird's throat. Come hither, come hither, come hither. Here shall he see no enemy, but winter and rough weather. As You Like It, Part 1. When Duke Senior was banished by his brother Frederick, many loyal courtiers followed him into the forest of Ardennes. Here they lived simply, hunting game and gathering wild fruits. The forest gave them a leafy roof and mossy beds to sleep on. Duke Senior found himself more content than he had ever been before. Duke Frederick's life was not so pleasant. He was plagued by guilt and grew suspicious of all those around him, especially his niece, Rosalind. Rosalind had not gone into exile with her father because Celia, Duke Frederick's only child, had begged for her to stay as a playmate. Celia and Rosalind became firm friends. But as the girls grew into young women, Duke Frederick began to notice how Rosalind outshone his daughter. Rosalind's chestnut brown hair and green eyes attracted more admiring glances than Celia's blonde ringlets and dimpled smile. Duke Frederick's resentment of his niece festered inside him. He was determined that if Rosalind gave him the slightest excuse, he would banish her. One fine morning, Celia and Rosalind visited a village fair on their way home from riding. There they met Le Beau, one of the Duke's courtiers. "Ladies, you're just in time," he declared. "The Duke has offered a purse of 50 ducats to any man who can throw his wrestler Charles. 2 challengers have been carried away groaning. The last contender is a charming young fellow. Everybody wants him to win, but it's more likely that Charles will break his neck." Celia and Rosalind were intrigued enough to follow Le Beau to the wrestling ground. A crowd had gathered around a circle marked out on the grass. Within the circle stood Charles, whose powerful shoulders and flattened nose made him seem more like an ox than a man. Duke Frederick emerged from the crowd and walked over to his daughter and niece. He kissed Celia's cheek. Rosalind received the slightest of nods. "I'm glad you're here," said the Duke. "A brave but foolish young stranger insists on fighting my wrestling champion. I can't persuade him to change his mind, but perhaps you can. Fetch him, LeBeau. I must take my place in the judge's chair. The young man LeBeau presented to Celia and Rosalind was dressed in a dark green doublet and hose. He was tall and athletic, with a mass of blonde hair and clear gray-blue eyes. Rosalind felt giddy. Do you really mean to fight the Duke's wrestler, sir? She asked. I do, my lady, said the stranger. I wish you wouldn't, blurted Rosalind. You could be badly injured. I wish you wouldn't too, Celia said. Charles might ruin your handsome, you could be killed. The stranger smiled sadly. I'm touched by your concern, ladies, but the truth is that I need that purse of ducats, he said. If I'm injured or killed, so be it. I have no family or friends to care whether I live or die. I care, thought Rosalind, and her heart went out to the lonely young man. A trumpeter blew a fanfare, and the stranger returned to the wrestling ring. Begin! Duke Frederick commanded. The wrestlers circled warily. Charles made several lunges, but the stranger evaded his grip, turning and sidestepping as gracefully as a dancer. Charles seemed lumbering in comparison, and the crowd laughed at him. The laughter angered Charles, and anger made him careless. In a move almost too swift to follow, the stranger seized Charles around the waist and threw him to the ground, where he lay dazed and winded. The crowd cheered wildly until Duke Frederick stood up from his chair and signaled for silence. What is your name, young man? He inquired. I am Orlando, the youngest son of Sir Rowland de Boys, my lord, said the stranger. Duke Frederick curled his top lip like a snarling dog. Your father was my sworn enemy, he rasped, flinging a purse at Orlando's feet. Take your money and go. He turned to a courtier. Have Charles carried to a physician. Celia, come with me. The Duke stormed off with LeBeau in attendance. Celia, her face crimson with embarrassment at the Duke's behavior, scampered after her father. The crowd melted away, and soon only Orlando and Rosalind were left. Rosalind stepped forward, unfastened a gold chain from around her neck, and held it out. Will you wear this and think of me sometimes, sir? She said. As Orlando took the chain, his mind went blank. My lady, he gabbled. I knew your father, said Rosalind. He was a gallant gentleman. She reached up and brushed her fingertips against Orlando's cheek, then hurried off. What? Orlando thought. Who? Why? A word with you, sir? Someone murmured. Orlando turned and saw that LeBeau had returned to the wrestling ground. Why is Sir Rowland's son wrestling at a village fair? LeBeau asked. Orlando sighed. My older brother Oliver refuses to share our inheritance, he said. He drove me out at the point of a sword and swore that he would have me murdered if I ever came back. You're no safer here, confided LeBeau. The Duke is in one of his black rages and means to do you mischief. Go to the forest of Ardennes and find Duke Senior. That's what I would do if I had the nerve. Thanks for your advice, friend, Orlando said. But before I leave, who was the dark-haired lady who spoke to me just now? The old Duke's daughter, Rosalind, LeBeau informed him. Rosalind, thought Orlando. A pretty name, a lovely name, a wonderful name. And all at once, the danger he was in did not seem to matter in the least. End of part 1. We'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.